It's, it's 5:05 and we're gonna get rolling here, so we don't take up too much of our special guest tonight's time. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. We appreciate your time. We have a special guest in the house tonight. Representative Ken Borton with the 105th District is a super fan of motorized recreation. He's here to show his support of motorized recreation in Michigan. Representative Ken Borton meets some of the true heroes of motorized recreation.
All right, are you ready for me now?
We are.
Okay, great.
You're meeting all the true heroes right here.
All right, wonderful.
A handful anyway.
I've prepared a brief introduction here, which I'll go through, and then I'll stay here as long as you want for questions, and I'm hoping even more so than questions, suggestions on how I can help you guys out there on the field. So thank you, Karen. Appreciate that introduction. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ken Borton. I'm state representative in the 105th, and that encompasses the counties of Charlevoix, Antrim, Otsego, Montmorency, and Ascota. I've lived in the Gaylord area, right in the center of that district, for the last 27 years. It was actually snowmobiling and ORV riding that brought me up here all those years ago. So my wife and I, we both own snowmobiles. We both own ATVs, side-by-sides, all that kind of stuff. So that's why when Karen came to me originally about this legislation, I was all about it. I was very familiar with the issue. And sorry, my cat, I literally just got home from Lansing. I haven't even unpacked yet. My cat is saying hello outside the window, so I apologize if you can hear that. So anyways, obviously I read all the social media, I hear all the issues. What was really frustrating for me is seeing all the comments about folks saying, hey, how are things in Gaylord right now? How are the trails look? Well, they're just trashed. Let's go to the UP. So, on a tourism level there, that frustrated me a lot. So what I did after talking with Karen and finding out the issues that I was very familiar with, and that was the wheeled vehicles that were pretty much destroying a lot of the trails in the area, I introduced Bill 4535 to prohibit wheeled vehicles from driving on snowmobile trails between December 1st and March 31st when they're snow covered and groomed. If they're not snow covered, if they're not groomed, wheeled vehicles could still ride them during that time. House Bill 4536 was also introduced to set a penalty. And I didn't want this to be a misdemeanor. I wanted it basically just to kind of be a slap on the hand. So we decided to just make it a $200 civil infraction. And the revenue that would be generated from these fines would be directed to the snowmobile trail improvement sub-account to repair the damage that was done. I got a little bit of grief from the librarians across the state because they thought that money was entitled to them. But I think I've worked that all out. I think they're on board with this now. So both bills easily passed through the House with bipartisan support back in October. After that, some ORV groups came out of the woodwork to oppose the legislation. As you can imagine, they thought that I was taking trails away from them. They didn't want to be told that they couldn't ride on our snowmobile trails. The problem with that is, they don't pay for the maintenance of these trails. So if a trail is groomed, the truck should not be allowed to ride on it, creating ruts and making it unrideable. We've been negotiating with stakeholders, a lot of people we've had to talk to fine tune the language, which we have been doing. The bill right now sits over in the Senate Natural Resources Committee. So we're hoping that Senator McBroom will be moving that forward, and I believe he will be. Also, it's worth mentioning that the governor proposed $3.1 million, which you're probably familiar, for ORV trail improvements, which I applauded. And that includes $1 million in grant funding for maintenance and expanding ORV trails. These funds can help us by keeping wheeled trails on their own designated trails. So trying to offset part of the complaints I was getting that you're taking trails away from us, hoping that this can go through and they'll actually have a place they can ride. So that's basically all I have to get us started. I'm here to, like I said, hear from you, hear your questions, hear how I can help.
You're muted, Karen.
They get real quiet when this happens. I guess that I'm interested in the 3 mil that was appropriated to the ORV. Where did that come from?
Yeah, that is not done yet. It was something that the governor has proposed, but it hasn't come from or gone to anywhere yet. So I believe it's probably just going to come from the general fund.
Okay.
Maybe somebody from the DNR might know a little more about that than I.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm sure it'll roll out and we'll all find out sooner or later. I had noticed that in the line item and myself and just wondered.
Yeah, I think it's a good start. I mean, we know
Right.
3.1 is not going to really create a lot of new trails, but it's a start.
Right. Correct.
Karen, I
Absolutely.
think some of that 3.1 is the increase of the permit sales they have. I don't think it's the entire 3.1, but some of that is just an increase in the fact that the permits for ORV are going up. And so that adjusts that allocation to
Okay.
meet the need. But I think Representative is right. I think there's some other monies in there. I don't know the exact dispersion of what that suggestion was.
Right. You and I did talked about that.
I have a question for you guys because I got mixed information on this. I heard from one person who said that that the DNR has dispersed all the funds for trail maintenance and equipment, and yet I'm still hearing from clubs around the state saying, "Oh no, we are still owed money." So where are we at with that? I mean, I don't want to beat up on the DNR every day if everybody's got their money, but I'm hearing that's not true.
We did receive the supplemental that we requested, and that is in the process of being sent out to the sponsors. They're waiting for the equipment to come, their bids to come back. So
Okay.
I think we're actually square right now, aren't we, Chris? I don't think that
we've,
it's there. It's just in process. It's in progress.
Okay.
Our normal appropriation for 22 has all been sent out in the grants, and Richard works on amendments every day as those come back. We hold, just a little bit back for the unexplained things. And he works on those, but yeah, we're just waiting for kind of the final details on the supplemental back from the clubs so that we can then issue that out and they can start ordering that equipment. So
okay, well, that makes sense, and that's probably why I'm hearing from some of the clubs that they haven't received their money. So
right, they may have not gotten a grant for equipment, and that might be what's upsetting them.
Okay.
It's hard to say. I mean,
we need the information on what the details are of what they're buying before we can give them a check for buying it.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Well, then I will sit back and watch then and wait till you guys say you need my help.
Just for your information, we have 8 new groomers that we're going to put in the program, and 3 new drags. Some of the new groomers will be included with drags, but we probably spent the whole 2.15 million. So the only thing possibly that you might be hearing is that there was $1 million left
Joe Bartlett.
from a Lake Linden project that we'll have to appropriate down the road somewhere to add into the equipment. So.
Okay. Well, I'm obviously more than happy to help with any of that. I probably should have mentioned, I don't know if everybody's familiar, but I do sit on the full appropriations committee in the House. So I definitely have the ear of Chair Albert. So if there's anything that I can do to help going forward, I will.
We appreciate that.
absolutely. Absolutely. The communication needs to be there for sure from both sides. Any other questions for the representative? Come on, guys. He ain't scary.
I wish we could have done this in person. I was really looking forward to doing this out at Treetops, but
not near as much as we do. Well, we would have been in the soup for this one.
Well,
this event's always in the soup.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, because we can run the equipment. Normally there's the manufacturers, Paul Scanlon with Piston Valley is actually on tonight. They bring in units and the guys can actually touch and feel and see and run them and drive them. There's drags come in, and there's pretty darn good chance there's always going to be snow there, so we kind of stay in that area. Plus, it's a
Gotcha.
good central location for the state, so it works well there. It's usually at the Keewaydin Casino.
Well,
And
my seatmate on the floor of the house is Representative Markkinen from the Keweenaw. I'm sure some of you know him,
mhm.
and he overhears a lot of my conversation, snowmobile related. And he's told me they would more than welcome for your group to come up there and have a conference sometime. And he said he will guarantee you there will be plenty of snow. I think he told me, I think he told me the other day in the Keweenaw, they've got 265 inches already this year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Someday I'm gonna go there. It's on my bucket list. I'm gonna do it someday. I just
Yeah,
have never been there
it's a
because
beautiful
I want
place
to
to
see it.
ride.
Yep, I want to see it. I want to see all the snow for
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
Well, hopefully you can make our June meeting.
And where's that going to be?
I'm hoping that we can make that at the Snowmobile Museum in Auburn.
Oh, nice.
That
All
would be
right,
the
I'm sure.
snowmobile advisory work group meeting is in June. Next June will be our next one.
Yeah, if I'm available, I'd be more than happy to join you.
That's a very interesting. Yeah, those meetings, those advisory meetings are very interesting to listen to for sure. For sure. Well, all we can do is we'll put you on the radar, and the ones you can make, we'll be happy to see your smiling little face. And if not, we'll just keep you abreast of what's going on and give you the quick notes.
Yeah, well, Karen, you obviously do a great job of staying in touch, and I appreciate that. And so does Carl.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Carl has that. Sometimes we gotta tone him down a little, but
I always know I'm in for a long email when I see it's from Carl.
yep. But he's very detailed.
He's very detailed. That he is.
Right, Carl.
Their information bureau for stats.
Yes. Well, if we have any other questions, guys?
I have a question, but I just wanted to thank Representative Borton for carrying the torch on this. It's a big deal, especially for the area that I'm in. And I know you guys have all been with the meetings with me. Our entire section of trail is shared, and this will make a big deal for us if everything comes out the way we hope. And I just want to say thank you.
Well, you're more than welcome. Like I said, I've experienced it firsthand up here, and so I've been frustrated by that myself. So this was a no-brainer for me to get involved. And I'll tell you, my wife and I ride our side by side all year round. So even though I consider myself a snowmobiler, I ride my ORV a lot more, and I would never dream of going on a groomed trail with it. It just, I couldn't understand why anybody would want to do that, but there are some people out there that do. And I've heard from them, trust me. The guy the other day told me that he was going to bring his turbo side by side to my house and ride it up and down through my front yard because I was taking trails away from him. But so I know there's going to be some frustration out there.
I don't understand because all the seasonal and the forest roads that aren't a trail stay open. They have thousands of miles of trail.
They do.
Problem is they can't access them because nobody's grooming them.
Yeah.
Therein lies the problem.
They can't access them because if they're not groomed, it snows too deep.
Right.
Well,
But-
you've got a friend in Lansing, that's for sure, in me.
Well-
So anytime things come up, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help.
We appreciate you and all you've done so far and for being here tonight. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Representative, and we look forward to working with you more.
Yep, absolutely. All right, I'm going to go unpack.
Okay, perfect.
All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you so much. Okay, in the house tonight we have Russ Alger. Where are you, Russ?
Here I am. Can you hear me?
Do you need a screen share?
Nope, I'm good. I'm just gonna
Okay.
talk for a little bit and we'll go from there. I think
Okay.
most of you know who I am, have heard me talk, but I'll do a quick blurb here. I'm Russ Alger. I'm at Michigan Tech, specifically the Q&A Research Center. And I'm a terrain guy. So I work with vehicles. KRC is pretty much a ground vehicle research center. And we do some other things, but mostly it's vehicles, everything from robots to snowmobiles to army tanks. My expertise, I'm a civil engineer, and so my part of that is the terrains. So I've done a lot of snow research and a lot of, into soils. And right now I'm doing a lot of soil stuff with NATO. One of the biggest things I have going, which is interesting over the last week. It's added a little bit of extra flavor to things, but that's another story. So about beginning of 2019-ish, I got a project with the state of Michigan and DNR, Michigan DNR, to try and look at groomer maintenance, both tractors and drags, and try and put together a list of what are some of the major problems, maintenance problems that you guys have, or you folks have. And then from there, try and figure out a way that we can help you with that. Try and, if there's issues, what can the manufacturers do to keep those things from happening more? So we started out by getting all of or about the last 5 to 10 years of maintenance data that came from you, came from all of the grant sponsors, and try and query that and look at, what are the failures that we're seeing, and what can we do to take care of that. So we've done that. Shortly after we started, the pandemic hit and the project got put on hold, and so it's dragged for a long time. We got an extension through the beginning of September, and so we'll be finishing this up by the beginning of September. So I looked at all the data. We put together a program that queries the data, so we can pull groups out of things that are similar, that occurrences of maintenance, vehicle failures, drag failures, that kind of thing. And then we also did a survey, which a lot of you got, and I appreciate all the answers that I got back from you. So we got that survey, got all the results back, and then we did a query on those also, which gives us an idea of what your feelings are on things that break. What do you think about the program, that sort of thing. So that's all been done. And then my intention was, if you were at the last meeting, was to start doing phone calls and calling all the groups. I'm going to call every single grant sponsor, and if you are a group, and if you want to talk with me, that'd be great. If you don't, that's fine too. If you're busy and you don't want to talk, that's perfectly fine. But I'm going to start to do that. And like I said, I was going to do that earlier, but I started to do it, and it was December, and I realized in a big hurry that you guys are pretty busy. So that bad time of year to try and call and chat with everything going on. So as it turns out, that was better, because there was a couple of years in there that not a lot was happening, and then this past year was a good year, better year. Good for the Q1 anyways. There's lots of snow up here, and lots of snowmobiles yet. So tons of people in town. So I'm hoping now to start in the next couple of weeks. My winter test season is starting to wind down, so I'm going to start to have a little bit more time. I'm hoping to start making some phone calls, and I'm going to start with all the grant sponsors and chat with you and just see what your issues are. And I have, from looking at the data and from the surveys, I have an idea of what looks like are the major issues that you folks have. I'm not going to say them here because I don't want to skew the answers that I get later. I realize there's a bunch of politics, and we can chat about politics also, and my ears are open along that lines. So I'll make those phone calls, and that'll probably take me a month. Once that's done, I'm going to hop to DNR and talk to them, chat about what I found, chat about what I think, and And then lastly, we'll go to the manufacturers and some manufacturers and dealers and start to say, here's what it looks like. The major problems are, what can we do to try and fix this? And so you guys don't have to spend so much time and money and groomers down to fix these things. So next 2 months, let's say, is going to be a lot of phone calls and me trying to put together a story, and then we'll try and do a setup or an end game report that says, here's the problems, here's what we think we need to do to fix those, and hopefully we can go from there. I think that's probably the whole story. So I should probably have Karen send my phone number out and let you know what it is. So if you see it on your phone, you don't think I'm a prank caller. Although if you do see, you can just hang up, and if you don't want to talk to me too, so that's fine too. But you folks are the experts, and you're the ones that I want to talk to and find out what's going on and what you think and what your problems are, and we'll go from there.
Just don't tell me my warranty is expired on my new vehicle.
Oh, no, I won't.
I get that a lot.
I won't ask for anybody's credit card number, I promise.
Does anybody have any
I'm open.
questions? Any
I
thoughts?
got one. Mike from Sioux.
Hey,
Go ahead,
Mike.
Can you give us one major problem based on the end of the year reports that the grant sponsors send into the DNR? Just one. I know you don't want to give them all, but is there one that sticks out in your mind?
Well, first of all, which I should have mentioned earlier, I have all the data through 2019, and I'm working with Matt now to try and get Matt, the DNR Toriano, to try and get the latest data. So there's a couple of weird years in there, as you know, where not a lot happened, and money flowed backwards, I guess, instead of upwards or whatever. So those are kind of weird. And I'm hoping this year we at least we'll get the data for this year. It'll be close, but so that'll probably help me a little bit. But if you look at all the data that exists, it's really hard to get an idea of what groups there are, because all of the maintenance and all of the problems and all the things that have broken are written in different ways. So if a track came off of a vehicle, that might be in one place, it might say track came off, and it might say track broke. It might, so there's lots of different ways that these things are written up. So it took us a long time to put things into groups. So one of one of the ones that comes up a lot is final drives. So failures in final drives. So I'll throw that out there. And there's reasons for that, and we know what some of them are, and we're fishing through that. There's, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of politics. So when I look at the results from the survey, there's a lot of unhappiness on the politics side, and I'm not going to get into that, but I certainly will take it into account and pass it on. And whatever it ends up being, it ends up being. So those are kind of the things I want to look at. And I mentioned track. So track is an issue, but what parts of track is the complicated thing. So is it tracks coming off? Is it tracks breaking? Is it tracks wearing out? Tracks cracking? So there's all those kind of things. So when I start to call you folks, I'm going to say, here's the 4 things that pop out as the most important ones. What do you think? And if it's track, what part of that is it? So when we narrow down this query of data, and then move to a report that says, here's how we fix this track issue, I'll know what that is. And does that kind of make sense? Or so I just told you 2 of the things that pop up as fairly important. actually 3. So does that kind of help?
So do you think, yeah, so do you think it's a manufacturer problem or a groomer sponsor problem?
It depends, so if you look at, here's a real simple one. If you look at final drive failures, I think there may be a thread to that says that's correlated to wheels and tracks. So is it an issue of tracks on wheeled tractors, possibly? So that's kind of the thing I'm looking at. Are you having failures on final drives with tracks on the vehicle, or are you having them with wheels on the vehicle? And then what kind of terrain are you working on? I mean, I'll know where your club is and where your trails are, and I can get an idea of what that kind of terrain and traction issues are, and so get the feeling of what I'm looking at. So just saying it's final drives doesn't get us too far, but there are some things we can point at that say, yep, too much load on the final drive because of this sort of thing. So that's where I want to get. I want to get this report out that says, you guys said final drives, and here's all the different issues that play into that. And there may be one that's huge and some that are smaller, but it's it's a difficult problem when you start to dig into it, because they say tracks, just knowing that track failures are an issue doesn't really get us anywhere, because there's so many different things that could be. But once I talk to you, I'm going to know way more about it. And that's why it's really important for me to chat with you all. And I'm just going to spend some time just on the phone with you. And I was hoping to do some more traveling around, but it just hasn't happened. And I may still come to visit some of you, especially the ones that are close. It's a lot easier for me to talk face to face than it is to talk on the phone. I'm not a very good phone call person. So
You get the reports from Richard on the maintenance items?
yeah, so I'm trying to get that, the newest ones. I have all the old stuff, but I'm trying to get the newest ones here. So I talked with Matt a couple weeks ago. I've asked him a couple of times, but he's been super busy. And so if any of you can help me, if Richard can get me the latest data, that's great. Carl got me a bunch of it earlier too. So.
Well, Carl keeps up to date with Richard on that, so he would be a good source.
Yeah, Carl really helped me out in the beginning, because he had it all in a file already. So if we can fill in the blanks of that newest data, that would be helpful. And I have a technician that's working on it with me. He's a computer guy, so he'll get it all in, and that way we'll have it. And you guys will have the final report of it too. So you can, if you want to play around with querying the data, I'm sure you can do it. So
I can send the material over to Matt and he can get it to you.
okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Hey, Russ, you
And that'll give us
got a hand up from Joe Chavis. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. I always have a question here.
Sorry.
But one of the things that I think you would have trouble factoring into the study is that each club is responsible for their own maintenance on this equipment.
Yep.
And how good a job each club does in this maintenance program
Exactly.
to maintain their machine
Joe Bartlett.
and power units.
Join the
So
meeting.
it would be hard to factor in which clubs do that, because I know, talking from Monday, that a lot of clubs don't keep very good records of what they do to their equipment and what they do maintain and their service stuff. So I'm sure that that's a factor in a lot of these.
It's huge. It's huge. And that's kind of the point I was trying to make earlier, is there's so many different factors. And and again, we hop back to tracks or final drives, or whichever one you want. If they're not maintained right, then but but I don't want to get into the pointing of fingers of anything of that. You know, is it the manufacturer's
True.
fault?
No,
All I
no.
want to know is are they failing? And then we can go from there and say, you know what, if you do this, and this, you know, if we go somewhere and find out that there's no oil, then
Yeah.
that's bad. So I totally agree. And that's what made it or makes it a lot more, there's a lot more to it than when I first started. I was like, well, this won't be too bad. But once you dig into it, you're right. There's maintenance, there's you know, all sorts of things. There's who's operating and how's it operating and how, you know, is there enough money to fix it the right way? And so everybody's involved, and there's all these little things that trickle down to what the final result was. And so I hope to have,
Yeah.
by talking to everybody, I hope to have a whole big list of these are the ways these things happen, and go from there. Very,
You know,
very good.
and running a groomer on 100 miles of trail up the Keweenaw compared to a groomer running 100 miles of trail in Gaylord, you know,
Yep.
look at the wear and tear. It's just
Yep.
that 100 miles, the difference between the two conditions that they're operating in. So,
Exactly. And that's what I was saying before, by looking at where a club is and what the terrains look like. And, you know, and I know I have an idea of what some of the soils are, and, you know, so there's a lot of things on wear and tear, and it's an interesting problem. But we'll see if we can get, you know, if we can figure out a way to help out with some of it, we'll do it. So.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
And I appreciate your help for sure.
Hey, Russ, we have a question with Joe Bartlett. Go ahead, Joe.
Hi, thanks, Karen. I was wondering if you might be familiar with a tire, an airless tire made by a company called Trelleborg, and it's called New Track. And what it does is when it's on the ground, the footprint flattens out almost like a track would, you know, and as it goes around, of course, it's a round tire if it's off the ground, but when it's setting down, it has a lot more traction area or more of a footprint on the ground. And I was wondering if you had ever encountered those tires as a possible replacement for, you know, tracked units.
Okay, so I don't just off the top of my head remember what that one is, but we're doing military wise, and I'm working on some stuff in Mars, on the moon, and all sorts of things like that. And there's a lot of different ways to change the properties of a tire to get better traction out of it. So CTI systems, so you can change air pressure in the tires as you move along, and the tire can sense what we're working on a vehicle right now, or the vehicle senses what it needs for traction, and it adjusts the pressure automatically, and which adjusts the footprint of the tire. And then there's Tweels, which are airless tires. Or there's some work going on right now that we're got our fingers in where you can change the properties of the tire as it moves along. So it's a smart tire, if you want to call it that. So there's lots of that kind of thing going on, and there is benefit to that for traction, and there also is benefit for decreasing damage. So like for logging operations, they do a lot of that change in tire pressure so they don't mess up the terrain or the, you know, roots and trees, and there's all kinds of that kind of thing going on. So yes, there is some benefit to that, and there's quite a bit of work going on right now in that area. Snow is a little trickier, especially the deeper snow, but there's work in that area too, and I've done quite a bit of it to look at, you know, tires versus tracks, and all the different properties thereof. So
Yeah, I would have really liked to have gotten a hold of this company, and had we had our meeting at the Sioux, you know, possibly have them come up with a demonstration or something that, you know, that we might be able to look at, you know, and you know, show us what their products are.
So there's a test that we do that's called this common vehicle mobility test that we do called a drawbar pull test. And a drawbar pull test gives you an idea of how much a vehicle can pull. And it takes into account how much it's sinking, how much traction it's getting, all kind of thing. And those sorts of tests is what we do to compare, for instance, a tire like that to some other baseline tire or several different tires at the same time. So we do a lot of that kind of thing. And it's possible I've seen this one. I'll have to look. I'll look to see if I can find anything on any info on it for you.
Yeah, it'd be great. It's just an alternative to tracks is what I was thinking.
Yeah, in some conditions, that's, I mean, there are always well, I shouldn't say always, there are normally some negatives to those kinds of things too. And so the tires probably wear out quicker and there's more damage to them because there's less pressure in them and that kind of thing.
Right.
So all that has to be taken into account.
Okay, hey, thanks.
You bet.
Any other questions? Anybody?
Well, I'm looking forward to chatting with all you folks.
I think you did a great job, Russ. You answered everyone's questions.
All right, cool.
There's got anybody. Well, thank you so
Well-
much. We appreciate your time and for logging on and talking with us today. I know that you're busy and
Oh,
you got
that's all
time
good.
for
And
us, so
hopefully we can see everybody face to face and at the SAW meeting in June. So
that would be fabulous. That would be fabulous.
I'll do my dance.
Okay,
All right.
perfect. I can't wait.
Thanks
All right.
all.
Well, thank you so much. Next up is a familiar face to most of you. Miss Jessica Holly is the statewide motorized trails program, is here to talk to us about their pilot project for the fleet management. All you, Jessica.
All me. Did you give me my special permissions, Karen?
Yes, I did.
All right, great. So first of all, Karen has already thanked all of you for being here the past 3 nights and tonight. And I'm going to take it a step further, and I want you to make sure that you all thank your significant others for putting up with you hogging the computer for this week, and also having to get you your dinner, turn off the camera and get you your dinner while you're watching this whole thing go by. So thank you to all significant others. And it's always interesting on these meetings. Some people have cameras on and some don't. And I've been trying all week to figure out how many Chilton manuals there are on the shelf behind Mr. Veltman there. Can anybody see them? There's tons of them, aren't they? Okay, anyway, maybe nobody knows what a Chilton manual is anymore. Come on, you guys are old timers. You know
I
what it
noticed
is.
them,
Come on.
Jessica.
All right. I'll stop goofing and do my business here. All right, so should be seeing my screen here in a second. All right, do I got it, Karen?
Yes, you do.
All right, big
You're
red
on.
screen. Okay, great. Okay, so tonight I am here to talk to you guys a little bit about a project that we've been working on with Verizon, Verizon Connect to be exact. This is a little bit different than Verizon Wireless. It's a division of Verizon company. And Verizon Connect works with telematics and fleet management systems. And like I said, I've been talking to them for over a year now and getting their perspective on what our needs are and what we think our needs are and how we can work that in. So what we decided to do was have a pilot run or a test run with a handful of our machines this winter, and kind of got off to a slow start. And then Mother Nature, wasn't really in all the regions that we had picked for this test. But the good news is that we were able to get data from all 5 participants in this study. And we are going to take that information, move forward. The test run ended on Monday. And so this was really good timing for me to take some of that information and data, pull it into a presentation, and kind of give you guys the lowdown on where we're at and where we want to go where it's been suggested that we take this program from here. So ultimately, the goal of a fleet management solution for our grooming tractor fleet is to embrace and utilize a modern fleet management technology system to improve our capability for informed and efficient management of the equipment that's used by our snowmobile trail grooming grant sponsors. And my clicker's not working, so I must go to the mouse. And my mouse, oh, there it goes. Okay, I'm very impatient tonight. All right, so first I'm gonna, this part's gonna sound like a little bit like a sales pitch, but all of these items are really upfront that anybody would tell you if they were investigating this kind of thing. So Verizon did a survey, not just of their own customers, but of a lot of different government fleet systems, everything from snowplows to transit buses and other kind of big equipment that they use out in the field. And their results were that 68% of government fleets are using, and private fleets for that matter, are using GPS fleet management technology. And that doesn't necessarily mean theirs, but some form of fleet management technology. And there's tons of companies out there that are doing this. So GPS fleet technology, or telematics, is quickly becoming a standard tool for many organizations. We can use this technology to help us address critical fleet issues and get a positive return on our investment for our snowmobile trail grooming equipment. And that currently stands at an investment of roughly 180 machines at an average of, 250,000 or so each. And you can see that investment that we have in this fleet is tremendous if you've never done the math on that one. So the things that we're going to be looking at, bullet pointing here, are how do we cut costs, promote safety, increase productivity, and streamline our maintenance record keeping. Every fleet is different, but with an effective implementation and adoption strategy, fleet management solutions can help us achieve that positive return on our investments, or maybe make that return on investment last a little bit longer. And that's one of the facets of what we're talking about here. So what exactly does fleet technology do? Fleet management uses global positioning system hardware to give visibility to the movement of vehicles, drivers, and assets while they're in the field. So you get a near real-time 360-degree view of your fleet's daily operations. The picture with the yellow background, I don't know if this is exactly the unit that was put into our 5 tractors or not, but it's very similar small device, about the size of a cell phone, and it is a simple 3-wire installation that Verizon has a certified and insured professional installation team that they work with across the state, actually across the United States, but in our particular case, across the state, to make these installations safe and effective. What you're looking on the right, the big picture with all the dotted lines on, this is an example of some research that Kim Kennedy, our mapping GIS specialist, helped me put together to show how we can overlay the data that we are receiving from the field onto our own maps, or vice versa, to illustrate that this system is adaptable with our Esri mapping system, the DNR's mapping system. And on this picture in particular, the purple line is trail, and all the funky dotted lines are representing different aspects of a grooming run that was done by Cini. So with this fleet management solution, we'd be able to view the location of every single vehicle in the fleet. we'd be able to identify potential problems with engine idle and no signal alerts in near real time. And I'll explain that a little bit more. We can improve our mapping accuracy and simplify the mileage and maintenance reporting, and get valuable data to make critical business decisions. It's not just about mapping and mileage. There are so many other facets to what we are looking at with this solution. And overall, I think we all are on the same page that we want to get more out of our assets, our grooming equipment. So on the left, just a couple examples of screenshots of things that I have been viewing daily for the past 6 to 8 weeks. The top left shows, this is just like the home page when you log into the system, and you can see the dots of where our fleet are at that current time. Now, again, this is just a screenshot, and I'm only catching 3 of our 5 dots. You can see Noggin at this day and time. They were resting, so they have a red dot. They were hanging out. And Sault Ste. Marie in this day and time, we're also not grooming at this particular hour. And the green dot shows that Sini was running when I happened to pull up this map. Atlanta and Grand Traverse are cut off on this screenshot just because I wanted to show a practical example. But you can imagine all the dots that we would see if we had 180 of those all around the state, and that would be pretty exciting to see. You would also see on any given day, if Sini, this green dot, if he was out running and he stopped to pick up, some down branches, or if he ran in and got a sandwich somewhere, we may see a blue dot that is telling us that that groomer is running, but it is not moving. So it's in an idle situation, which is not necessarily bad, but it's good that you can see at a glance kind of what activity. That's your first glance that you receive when you log into this program. And then I just want to show, obviously, any program like this is going to have street map views and satellite imagery views. So this is the maps page. You can see the menu here on the left-hand side of all of the things that we can do with this program. And this happens to be the maps page that you're looking at. It lists all 5 of the vehicles and their status at that particular time when I was looking at this, the address where they're located, and then you can add that current information to a history section where they store all of the history of the movements of these vehicles, and that's for quick access. Again, you can see now, you can see all 5 dots here, and Sini is on the move, and it looks like they were going, southeast a little bit. So they were probably on the return run, maybe at that particular time. So with live maps, you can watch your fleet in near real time. You can monitor the entire fleet at a glance, and then you can drill down on any vehicle or driver when you need more data. Now, let's say I'm one of the field contacts over in Crystal Falls or the Ontonagon West UP area, and I have 3 clubs that I'm responsible for. I don't have to see all this other garbage on the screen if I don't want to. I can just click on my 3 clubs that I'm responsible for in this area, and I can only see, I could just, again, drill it down to just their information. And I may not, really have any concerns about what they're doing over in Atlanta on that particular day. So these things, you can pick and choose what you want to see if you want that 10,000 foot view, or if you want to look at a specific fleet or a specific group of vehicles. A second feature is route replay, and you can review view and replay the groomer's routes. You can see when they left, how far they traveled to get to the trail, where they stopped, and any variances in their route of travel compared to our official map, trail maps. And I already mentioned that this program can totally be integrated with the DNR's top-notch Esri and mapping systems that we have. Again, kudos to Kim Kennedy for getting me some of this information. She pulled data from the program. And so on the left, you can see, just like on the other picture, all the purple are all the snowmobile trails. And then this graph that is showing these are data points that she pulled from numerous runs over a certain time period that she set. And then so the black lines you can see are runs that were made in these particular areas. And these are the data points that she used to set that information or overlay that information onto our maps. The right side shows a little bit more zoomed in view. And so this is just one example of something that we can look at and try to help with our mapping and our routing of our groomers. So where you see the dark solid lines, that is matching up perfectly with the trail that we have on our maps. Or where you see the dotted lines, that is a variance from the trail. And so, you know, we as mapping people, we may look to see, I wonder what was going on and what they were doing here. And now I can't be specific. If somebody from CNE's on, you can definitely correct me, but here are some thoughts that we had. This little tiny stretch right here, dotted lines, we were saying, well, that could probably be a little spur that goes to a gas station, restaurant, other services, perhaps a parking area that the groomer's trying to keep clear, or a turnaround point for the groomer for some reason. So that's not that big of a deal when you zoom in close on that. The larger variance with all the dotted lines here, we inquired a little bit about what that might be for, and the answer that we came up with was that the dotted or the solid line is their outrun, and then they did not feel the need to go back over that trail again after, for whatever they saw their progress. And we don't need to go back over it. We'll let it set up, and then they took the road back instead. Another reason we kind of know that, first of all, Kim says this is definitely, if you zoom in, you can see that that's following the path of the road. And then another thing that you can tell is, or Kim could get us the information, is that when they were going on the solid black line, definitely under 10 miles an hour. And when they were traveling on the road to get back to home base, they were doing a little bit more speed that they generally would not be using if they were grooming the trail. So in a nutshell, that's a lot of information for some dotted lines. We can also look at things like concerns. If a vehicle is stopped in a certain place for a long period of time, and we get an alert that vehicle has been stopped, or there's no signal for a long period of time, we can check in with that club. And we did have that instance with CNE. We had, I can't remember exactly where they were at, and this picture doesn't really show it, but they had a groomer that was showing no signal for over 8 hours. And so, we sent out some questions and said, hey, we're concerned that that something's amiss with your groomer out there. And then, right away they responded, yeah, we had a breakdown. We were out in the middle of nowhere. We had to get things taken care of. And then they appreciated that we checked in to see that everything was okay, their driver was okay, and we understood they were having a maintenance issue on that particular day. So those were good things to see. So another technical term in this technology is geofencing. And basically that means that on a map, we can draw a circle or a square or a polygon, any shape we want. And then you draw a border around an area that we want to keep an eye on, and we can get instant access to vehicle data for that location. So in this picture, you can see we drew a big geofence around Atlanta's home base, and you can see that their vehicle, at the time of this, the yellow means that there was no signal, which at their home base, generally there's no signal. So until that vehicle moved out a little bit, then we would get the green that it was moving. But so this is a really zoomed in satellite view. You can see their barn and the whole deal. So that's important. If a trail coordinator, or I always say this backwards, a groomer coordinator or a trail boss would like to know when his guy leaves and that his guy is safely back to home base after a run, then the geofence alert would send that trail grooming coordinator a message that said, the JD 250 has arrived back at the barn within that geofence area. So alerts are good. Geofencing is a nice feature to have. This is just a screenshot of different kinds of alerts that I received over the period of this pilot run. This was in my email inbox. These can be set up as email messages or text messages, or you can just log into the program and click on alerts, and then you can see what kind of alerts. These are all customizable. I set up an alert for any idle time over 15 minutes. Send me a notification, and we can set that for for anything, any kind of time frame that we would want or that you would want as a user out in the field. And then I set up an alert, just out just playing around with the system and its capabilities. Anytime a machine turned on, excuse me, with 5 machines, it really wasn't a problem to get those emails. But if I had 180 machines, I certainly would not want to know every time a machine turned on. But that's just a feature. And again, you can set it for only the machines that you want to know about. Another alert that you can set up is maintenance issues or maintenance reminders. It says faults, but that's a little misnomer because it's just telling you if you have set any maintenance parameters for that machine, you can get a notification to check with your mechanic or your driver. Hey, did we get that windshield wiper replaced like we talked about yesterday at the meeting? Those kind of reminders can be set up. Excuse me. This is just a screen showing a listing of the kind of alerts that you can get, or the program can choose to get when our vehicles are active or when they're not active. You can set a towing alert. So if a vehicle moves without the ignition on, we can get an alert that says, hey, that machine's going somewhere, but it's not moving on its own. So, we want to be sure that we understand what's happening at that point. I'd like to see someone try to steal a groomer. I don't know if that really happens out there. Maybe one of you got a story you can tell later on that. But so those are just alerts that can be sent to multiple recipients. The groomer coordinator, trail boss, field contacts, the other drivers. You can send an alert when I'm reaching that. I'm an incoming driver and I'm gonna get inside that geofence. You can send an alert to the next driver who may be waiting on standby to get up and do the next run. And then again, I already said that there's multiple different ways you can get alerts if you're interested in getting them. Kind of going to revert back to something that Russ said. If you want to talk to him, great. If you don't, great. If you want to talk to this program, awesome. Your tractor is going to be talking to the program, but doesn't necessarily mean that you have to talk to the program as a grant sponsor. It's gathering information, whether you choose to use that information or not. We have great reports with this. The capabilities are phenomenal. Again, you see the menu at the left, and the reports menu is down here towards the bottom. These are all menus of reports that you can customize and run, and there are a million of them. You can just view historical data, and we can use this information to plan more confidently, our runs or our fuel efficiency, or just numerous other things. These reports can be set up on demand. So I can go in and just click something if I want to see what happened on a certain day, a certain time, or you can set up automated reports so that every morning when you sit down at your computer, you can see what your vehicle did last night, if you are a grooming coordinator. Again, making sure that these reports are reaching the right people at the right time. This is another screenshot that Kim worked on, helped me with. It was just basically, excuse me, she wanted to show how she received the data points that she worked with when she was doing our mapping scenarios. Excuse me, I gotta take a drink real quick. Thanks. So again, under that create report, you just select the history from the create report menu, and you choose what vehicles you want to see. And then you zoom it into the dates, specific dates that you want to see. If you want to see a day, a week, a whole month, or the entire season, you can run a report for any of those things. At the bottom, you can see that there are formats that these reports can come out in. You can do it in a simple spreadsheet, so you can see the data in, ABC 1, 2, 3, simple information. You can do a PDF report, and then it downloads automatically to your computer, or you can save it. You can click save here, and that would save it into the program's memory, the specific report that you ran. It's always saving the data, but the reports, you have to tell it to save those reports because you've just created it. So this data collection and reporting, you can view it again in different ways, customized graphs, charts, and spreadsheets, and they can all be stored as a permanent digital record per vehicle, per grant sponsor, per region, or per the entire fleet of grooming equipment. So this information, can be very valuable to looking at history of equipment or establishing a baseline with our new equipment that comes into the fleet. We establish that baseline, and then the history on that piece of equipment builds, including maintenance items and other things. Which brings me to maintenance. This is a big deal because we've been talking about maintenance a lot. And how do we decide from those equipment status reports? How do we glean from that written information, all the information that we know and the equipment subcommittee needs to know to put together a viable list of machines that need attention or need replacing or need perhaps moved to another location where it could be of better service. So streamlining our maintenance monitoring and documentation is very easily accessed in this electronic format and stored. Also, this program offers electronic driver vehicle inspection reports. So the DVR check sheet, you can even do that on a mobile device like your phone or an iPad. You pull up the application, the driver can do a walk around pre-run or after run and check off all the things that he's really supposed to be checking off before and after he does a run. And then those DVIR sheets are stored electronically. So the groomer coordinator can look back on any of those things and and take note of any patterns that of breakdowns or of things that they may be able to see if they are interested in really keeping track of what's going on with that machine. Also, it creates an audit trail and file maintenance records. And these permanent records of who did the inspections, what mechanic or volunteer performed the corrective actions, including date and timestamps, notes. There's just a place to take copious notes. You can write a book on a piece of machinery if you want to, and photographs. So you can take a picture of like this one guy who's working on his groomer out in the field because he doesn't have a barn. and all the parts and everything that he had to undo so that he could put the whole thing back together. So that's documentation right there of a job that seemed to be pretty huge with this picture. But photos are important. And to have all these things in one place where I can click on that Tucker and know the history of everything right there and be able to scroll through it. All levels of people involved with this program would find that particularly useful. Dashboards are just a way to visualize key trends and metrics that are going on with your vehicle or your fleet. So you get that visual overview of your equipment's performance. And then at any point on these dashboards that you customize and set up, what do you want to know? Fuel efficiency, here's your little chart. I know it's blurry, but it was a screenshot from one of my training sessions. You can look at a chart of total idle time, vehicle activity, and let's see, vehicle fuel levels. The amount of fuel purchased in any time period is what this one at the upper right represents. And again, this center one is monitoring speed of the vehicles. And if there's any, they use the word violations, but I think that's too harsh. Any instances where maybe your driver isn't, might be, going too fast for his own safety or too fast to create a quality trail. These are all customizable. If you don't really want to know about vehicle fuel use when you open this up and look at it, then you don't have to have that on your dashboard. You can customize and create what you want to see when you open that screen up as you're looking into your fleet's information. This is a menu of different dashboards that you can set up with those graphs and charts that make that quick visual for you. I'm not going to read all through them, but this presentation will be available. I sent it out to all the SAW committee members today, and we can get this out to Karen if she wants to post it anywhere. Or I can send it to you. If you just email and ask me, that'd be good too.
It'll be in the video as well, Jess.
Yeah, it will be. Thank you. So just a quick review. Key features: live mapping, high resolution maps that show each vehicle's current location and status. Reporting, tons of different reporting in a lot of different variables that you can set up to increase transparency and reduce unnecessary costs and promote safety with your vehicle operators. These kind of things are just very customizable. I know I keep repeating that, but so one guy, may want to know everything. One guy might just want to know about his fuel, and that's all he wants to know. There's a report for that. The alerts are a huge key feature of monitoring our fleet for its safety, the safety of our operators when they're out there, and for information about the equipment. Alerts, I didn't point it out on the alert screen. I'm going to just real quick go back to it because it's important. There's a diagnostic trouble code alert that you can set up. So anytime your vehicle throws a code, that can be transmitted as an alert to the driver, to the trail boss, to the unit contact, so that they know that that vehicle needs attention when it gets back to home base. And also, I think Don Britton brought this up earlier, and that's why I wanted to refer back to it real quickly, is that just for an example, our newer John Deeres already have that JD, what is it called, JD Fleet application that comes with the tractor itself. It's the tractor's computer that collects data, right? And so that data has been very useful. I've heard this talked about it at grooming workshops. You can talk to your John Deere tech and without him having to drive 5 hours to come out and look at your machine, because he can pull up the diagnostics from that JD Fleet application. The reason I bring that up is because with this particular Verizon application, all we have to do is ask John Deere for the rights to the diagnostics on that tractor, and all the diagnostics that John Deere has collected, which is a lot more than throwing a code, right? Those diagnostics can be uploaded and put in that vehicle's file. And if the tech from John Deere makes any notes or comments on the work that he's going to do, or any resets that he did from his virtual world out there without having to even put a hand on a machine, all those things can be captured and noted. So this program does interface with other types of programs that already come standard with our newer vehicles in the fleet. Again, historical data. We can research the mobile application and look into how that can be effective when people are out in the field. I know that each one of our unit contacts, our field contacts, they all have their own phones now. Their company DNR provided phones, and they could easily upload the mobile app for this program and have all the things that I've shown you pretty much at their fingertips. And I know you can't really see the maps when you're on a phone, but you can get an alert that tells you, hey, maybe we need to look into this, or can you please contact your trail coordinator for your grant sponsor and see if there's, you know, something up that you can help with, that kind of thing. These are just a few examples of data collection that Kim Kennedy helps me work with too. They're basically breadcrumb trails is what we call them. So you can see the activity, the purple lines are existing trail. The activity shows different information from different time periods. And how she collected this is that she set up the report to give her the information from every ping of data that hardware sends out. And at this moment, we have all of the hardware set up for 2-minute pings. Now, what that means is every 2 minutes, the data will send to the program the current vehicle status. And for those of you out in the middle of nowhere who are hoping your internet doesn't die during this presentation, everybody asks the question, what happens? Verizon sucks up here and we don't have any good cell service, and what are we going to do, and how's this going to work? The thing is that piece of hardware in those vehicles, just like in the John Deere JD Fleet application, those devices are collecting information no matter where you are at any point. When you get back into a place where there is a signal, that data instantly uploads into the program. So you can go in and out of signal, and even if your vehicle at your groomer barn, you have 0 signal, as soon as you leave that barn area or go outside where there is a signal, that data is going to be transmitted at that time. And we had that. We had plenty of instances from our vehicles. Sault Ste. Marie was a good example. And out in Atlanta, there were places where we couldn't get a signal. When they were parked inside their barn in Atlanta, we had no signal. But as soon as they got up and running and out the door, then we could see the activity instantaneously. So what did we learn from these 5 participants? First of all, I want to thank them for graciously allowing the intrusion on their grooming operation, which I say tongue in cheek because it really wasn't an intrusion. Safety. Safety for our drivers, knowing where our drivers are, and what perhaps there could be issues with the vehicle, understanding codes and speeding alerts, ignition and idling alerts. Those things are important to the safety of our volunteers and our drivers that are out there. That immediate location information, as I explained, the 2-minute pings, real-time last known location. Our fire fleet, our fire officers and their administration are looking into implementing this system for their fire equipment so that when a dozer is out working a fire line, the dispatcher will know exactly where that dozer is. And if he gets in any trouble, they can give him a Latin long and a plane can come in, help the guy out. You can set up, send out another piece of equipment to help the guy if he's in any kind of distress because of the fire movement. So right here within the DNR, there are other places that we're finding uses for this kind of application. Risk management. There's, like I said, there's tons of places where you can just put notes in. And so the drivers or the groomer coordinators can document accidents, run-ins with, groups of snowmobilers. And another future potential is that this program also offers a video option, a dash cam option. Not to look at the driver. No, we don't want to see the driver's face. We want to see what's happening in front of your blade. We maybe want to see what's happening with the drag. And I know in a couple of instances, I think, I don't know if any of the guys are on, but several of our clubs have already embraced this technology and they are using it to their benefit. And I have heard story after story after story about what their personal experiences have been with using this type of a system to know where their drivers are, know things that are happening out on the trail. One quick incident that I was related, a snowmobile run-in with the groomer. They caught it all on camera, and they could take that to the insurance company or perhaps any legal action that may come up, and they could use that video as evidence into how the situation actually occurred. That's just one little far-reaching example, and we hope that those situations won't come up. But even without a video option, the opportunity to record the exact moment and location that any kind of accident or run-in with the groomer, if you slide off the trail, those things can all be recorded instantaneously for future references and also safety training for drivers who are coming right behind you and who need to learn these kind of things, which segues right into training. Having reports to look at and having the drivers that are being trained coming in, understanding, they can look at maps, they can look at statistics. And this helps them understand that when they get in that seat of that tractor, they're just not going to put it in gear and drive it. There's a lot of operation that needs to go on to perform the job of getting that trail the way that it needs to be run for that proper, perfect ribbon down the trail. So a training tool. Mapping, we've already talked about. And integration with other mapping entities, like a lot of our regional entities put out maps of their own, and generally those are being done digitally now. So if we can get that digital integration and do the view, just like the purple lines on the DNR maps, those things could potentially be integrated in the future. And then, the remainder of the facts of improved communication, showing important waypoints or markers that are out on the trail. Where just exactly is the bear trap? Because I want to mark that on this map. And mileage reporting accuracy and ease of reporting is huge. All of the information that now currently goes on your weekly grooming sheet and then compiled into your monthly grooming report and requests for reimbursement, that information is going to be at your fingertips, and it can be recorded electronically without necessarily having to keep that log. Now, you probably still want your drivers to keep a log, but the information is going to be at your fingertips, and you can run a report that says, this vehicle ran this many miles during that week, and fill out that form and get it to Richard in a lot more in a easy format. Again, I can't say enough about the easily accessed database for all of the machines, the grant sponsor information and staff contact information. It's all inclusive in a program like this. You click on the vehicle and you can, that data bank for that vehicle will not only tell you vehicle information, but it'll tell you what club is responsible for that, who the staff contact is, their contact numbers, everything will be in one view. And then the equipment status reports I already mentioned. The chance for us to have a comprehensive history on each machine, or that baseline that we run when we get a new piece of machinery, and we fill in the blanks from there forward. Having that at a point where anyone in the program can log in and view that information and use that to make better decisions on what we do, either as an individual grant sponsor or the decisions that we make in Lansing as well. I already mentioned pictures, the ability to upload pictures, and all of your cool logos that you guys have. We can import those right into the program. What purpose that serves, I don't know, other than just visual recognition of your organization. We can pump those right into this program too. That was a really cool thing that I got to play with. What questions do you have for me? I know that was a long presentation. I wanted to do overview, but I also wanted to hit some really important things to detail so that you understand and can comprehend the big picture here. Not just miles and mapping, but every other aspect that this type of investment could mean for our entire fleet and the efficiency in the way we run the program. So shoot, I'm ready.
Jessica, just a little information for you. The very west end of Seeney's Trail is the bear trap.
Oh, well, perfect. Thank you. I think I know I've been there at least 2 or 3 times, but yeah, I got to mark that right on that map. Thank you, Don.
Very good presentation.
No
No
questions or
questions?
comments. I'll take the bullets. I'm ready. So I really need. No, I mean I know you're giggling, Karen, but I really we need to hear all aspects of this, and we need to prepare for all aspects of what what people are interested in. Todd Smith.
I don't know. Don't ask me.
Do you have your hand up?
Yeah,
Todd?
how would
Okay.
this be funded, as far as would the clubs be responsible to purchase anything, or would this be provided by the DNR for each piece of grooming equipment?
Correct. The clubs would not be responsible financially for this unless they broke it. This would be a program or a amended fund, an amendment funded. It would be either purchased by the program or in a combination with an amendment. That's not the right word I'm looking for. An additional funding outside of the program funding. So there are different funding sources that we could use for this program.
Okay.
But not at the grant sponsor's expense. And that's really important, because if we have a grant sponsor who okay, so you're gonna put this in my tractor, fine, but I don't want to have anything to do with it. It's not costing them a dime to look at the program or not look at the program.
Okay. Fair enough.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Jessica. Is there a timeline to implement this program for the grooming season next year, or how's this going to work?
Well, here's what we got and what we determined between Chris Bennett and I this afternoon. I did the same presentation for the SAW committee today. And Chris, you can jump in at any point, but what my answer was earlier, Joe, first of all, I'm an idealist and I want everything to run smoothly in just the way that we would hope the timing would go so that we could get this incorporated before December 1st of 22. However, as you know, as we all know, what needs to happen next? As I said, we just stopped receiving data on the 28th. We're compiling our issue statement, which is just basically a proposal of information, and that goes to Ron Olson and the section chiefs from Parks and Recreation Division. Those are the movers and the shakers, right? So that this presentation and the basic information is going to go to them, hopefully within the next couple of weeks here, after Chris cleans up, all my proposal data. And that was supposed to be a joke, but so after that, if we can get the reviews, answer their questions, and get approvals, we will at the same time be running a parallel action to deal with our procurement services and make sure that we have our ducks lined up with procurement and any contracting issues that would need to be reviewed between Verizon and the state of Michigan. Verizon already has existing contracts with the state of Michigan. So this, we've researched and talked to many people on this. So we're hoping that will go smoothly. But again, Joe, we are a government entity. So
Well, yeah, I know. I mean,
we
because
have enough time to make this happen. We have enough time to make this happen. But, I don't want anybody to say, and I said this afternoon, I don't want anybody to say, Jessica said that this is all going to happen, in November.
True.
And I don't want to
True.
put myself on the line that way. Idealistically, man, I really would love to tell you that. But I also have to be cautious. And as much as I want to push this through, and with Chris Bennett's support on doing the reviewing and answering questions and making sure that we have done our due diligence to present this to our administration, those things take time. So I'm going to keep pushing and making sure, again, that I've done everything I can to represent this properly. That's a long answer, Joe, but thank you for listening.
well, I was just glad to see that, with this GPS program for the grooming machines has been talked about for at least the last 4 years, if not longer, about
Absolutely.
having them installed. And it was always about finding a program that would work. And this program seems to be the most extensive and involved and most informative one that you can imagine. It seems like it covers all the bases. So I think it's great. The sooner the better.
It does
Thank you.
cover a lot. And yep, thanks, Joe. And, as I referred to earlier, there are a handful of our grant sponsors who are embracing this kind of technology using other companies' software, which those programs are, I wouldn't talk bad about any of them either. But we as a state entity have to look at our purchasing options and the things that we're allowed to look into and companies that we're allowed to make contracts with. Those rules are pretty strict. We knew we had a foot in the door with Verizon as a corporate entity. And that's the way that we chose to do some testing. So I don't want to, I don't want to deter anyone else who may be looking at, exploring companies or the people that are already doing this out there on their own, because that is awesome. I mean, I really applaud them for taking that step forward with technology.
Jess, you got a question here in the chat. Who decides the speed limit that is on the equipment?
There's not a decision about speed limit. What I was talking about earlier, Kyle, is that we can set alerts. We're never going to tell any grooming coordinator or groomer operator what the ideal speed limit is for their trail. You guys know that, and you know what sets the best trail and how that goes. So no, there's not going to be a speed limit set. But what you can do as a grooming coordinator or a trail boss, you can set an alert for if one of your vehicles is going 15 miles an hour. And then then you might want to check with that driver and say, hey, that may or may not be good. If you are heading up a hill and you're going 15 miles an hour, you could lose control pretty easy. So you got to be careful. That would be like an alert to help in training of your drivers, to help inform your drivers of what speed limit works best for that piece of equipment on that terrain at any given time. So it's informational. It's not, this program is not to lay down any laws, so to speak. I don't mean legal laws. I mean, this is not us telling you what to do in any way, shape, or form. I hope that helps, Kyle.
So if they ask you how much money's been spent in the last 4 years on getting this done. And whether it came out of our funding or who's funding, but just,
Hey, Mr. Beltman, you got a hot
If
mic.
you have if you have a question, man, bring it up. This pilot program was at zero cost. Verizon did not charge us a dime. It cost me time, and a lot of other people who supported my efforts in getting this pilot run going, and all the communication that happened during the pilot run. Yes, we did have some administrative fees, and I don't mean fees, but administrative costs, because we are working. But that's what my job is. I am here for the benefit of this program and to research things that are going to help all of us together. This Verizon did not charge us one dime for this pilot program. I hope that helps.
Any other questions? See, Jessica, the cat gets their tongue every time. Well, thank you, Jessica. You did a great job. It was an awesome presentation, very informative, very well covered, and very thorough. We appreciate your time for doing that for us and enlightening us on what's going on. More than you know, you're definitely a huge help to the program, and we owe you great respect for what you've done here.
I'll keep trying. That's my job.
You're the best.
That's my job. Thank you.
Next we're gonna welcome Mr. Paul Scanlon with Piston Bully. He's got wants to talk a little bit about what Piston Bully has to offer. And if we can get you to unshare your screen, Jess, then he can share. Thanks, Jess.
I didn't hit the right button. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, and Paul, I'm sorry I didn't use a Piston Bully example when I was talking about those John Deeres. I really should have been talking about Piston Bully's technology, right?
That's
man,
all right.
it's all you.
I saw there were a couple of Piston Bullies that have that system in it, so I'm glad they're getting tested in our machines. That's great.
Thank you.
And I liked the picture of the broken down BRs on a trail somewhere. That was good to see too. I like seeing those yellow machines broken down. I'm just working on trying to share my screen.
If you want to go next.
Looks like I may need to restart my computer for that change to take effect, I guess. I don't know.
Did you click the green share
Oh, here we go. I think I got
screen?
it.
There you go.
See this one?
Yep, we can see it.
Red machine there. Okay. Unless anybody needs to take a break before I start, I guess I don't have too long on this presentation, I don't think so. Maybe we just go right into it.
I say roll right on through, Paul.
All right, great. Mike Williams did join. He's our piston bully rep for, he's the sales rep for the Midwest. He lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So he's your neighbor out there. He'd be happy to stop by, I think, and visit some snowmobile clubs. So go ahead and reach out and we can get your number to him and get him your numbers too, and you know, see what he likes to meet new people. So so I've got a presentation here that I think I presented some of this at the Sioux 2 years ago. But this is basically just a refresher on daily vehicle checks. So if anybody's got questions as I'm going along, just feel free to stop me, and I'm happy to talk more about stuff, or if you want me to go into more detail on anything, I'm happy to do that too. So this is me, I'm presenting this, Paul Scanlon. I'm the Midwest Operations Manager and Sales Manager for the Midwest Piston Bully office here in Jordan, Minnesota. We cover 12 states out of this office. The majority of our business is Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. We do service ski area machines, snowmobile trail grooming machines, and then Nordic ski machines, and then a few special purpose machines. Snowmobile market is probably a good third of our business out of this office in the Midwest. Now's your chance to get a screenshot of my contact info if you ever need to get a hold of me for anything, or get in touch with us for parts or service. That office number is the best one to get us. Not sure how many operators are in, but just like I said, going through some daily checks on our vehicles. You know, when you walk around a machine, these are things you want to look at. You know, check your engine coolant, make sure you're able to see it in the window, and go through. This is a trail bully. You check engine coolant through the side by the muffler. It's kind of hidden a little bit farther in on that machine. I know there's a lot of trail bullies out in Michigan. The newer PB 100s, it's straight in from the back. You can see the little window there. It's a close-up shot on the right. Shows you where to check that. Checking engine oil, you know, it's a good daily check. PB 400, it's on the passenger side, comes out right behind the cab, right in front of the block heater plug. If your machines are kept outside, you're probably over there unplugging it anyway. So they put the dipstick right there. PB 100, there aren't too many of those out in Michigan yet, but it's right behind the driver's door. Yellow stick under the blue cap there. It's your engine oil check. Trail bullies, for those of you that have those, the engine oil dipstick should be on the left side behind the driver's door. I know they've put those in a few different places over the years, so yours might be located somewhere else, but that's probably the most common spot. Checking hydraulic oil, that's an important one. On the 400s and trail bullies, it's through a little window on the passenger side. I've talked to a few people over the years that, you know, they'll call up and say, hey, our ATF isn't that pretty red color anymore, it's turning black. You know, and that's something you want to catch right away, because if your oil's getting black, it means you're getting gear oil or some other foreign oil or substances getting in there. Either somebody topped it off with something wrong, or you've got oil leaking from something else. Seen issues with that. On the PB 100s, your sight glass is in the back, so you check it from the rear. Gonna check function of your lights and wipers, make sure all those things work before you go out. The switches up everybody should know where their light switches are. 400, it's up above the windshield next to the radio. PB 100, it's over on the armrest side by the terminal screen. Check the backup alarm and the horn. Make sure that stuff's working. I don't know how often people turn on their backup alarm, but if you're going through a crowded area, maybe by a bar or something where there's a bunch of sleds out there, might not be a bad idea to put that on in case people don't see you with all the flashing lights and everything. Parking brake function, good to check that. If you can drive through the brakes, if you put the machine in forward and the brake is on and you can drive through the brake, your brakes aren't working and they're not going to hold you. It is just a parking brake on the piston bully. It's not a brake for slowing the vehicle down. You want to turn that on when the vehicle is stationary only. Otherwise, you're going to wear those disc plates. It's like a clutch. It's got a multi-disc brake. Yeah, on the 100, it's just a switch on the armrest panel, and on the 400, it's a lever, kind of back behind your right elbow, next to the seat. And on the trail bully, it's by your right knee. Up is on, down and forward is off. The picture of the gauge panel on a 400 here. You got your diesel exhaust fluid gauge, engine coolant temperature, and outside temperature and fuel level. Make sure you're full of fuel before you head out. And on a lot of these 400s, and on the newer 100s, there's an auxiliary tank, or on some 400s, 2 auxiliary tanks, and those do not read on the gauge. So those you want to physically hop out. Maybe if you weren't the last one to fill it up, you might want to hop out and take a look down where the fuel cap is. Just make sure you're full. Take a walk around the machine, look at your tracks, look at your tires, sprockets, tire guides. Those guides are important. If those bolts are coming loose around the tire guide and the tire guides are falling off, you run a risk of locking the machine out of the tracks. Or having a tire guide loosen up and break and then fall off somewhere. So easy stuff to check. Just walk around, make sure you're not missing any bolts. Blade attachment bolts, those loosen up over time just from vibration going down the trail. Just want to do a good walk around and make sure those are tight. Then we go into engine warning symbols. On the PB 100, you've got this picture of the terminal screen on that machine. You've got, and this is just a page out of the operator's manual that kind of goes over some of these warnings. People will call us up and say, hey, I got a yellow flashing light on, and they don't know what it means because somebody threw away the operator's manual. Well, it's in there. We can help you out with it. I've got, if people lose pages out of the operator's manual, or you just want a quick reference, I've got that stuff on the computer, and I'm happy to send it to people to have a quick reference to look at. Next, again on the 100, you've got tier 4 machine, so it does the exhaust system cleaning. And some of these warning symbols just come up and tell you the engine's doing something. You don't have to change how you're driving or let it idle or anything like that. It's just letting you know what's happening because the fan might kick into high gear and might be kind of unexpected. So these warning symbols just tell you that that's happening. Again, just another page out of the operator's manual, kind of tells you these warning symbols and what they mean. More of the same there. Battery charge check, air filter check. The 400s and 100s and trail bullies, for that matter, have a air intake flap And on the newer 400s, it's a automatic flap that adjusts how much warm air it's drawing from the engine compartment versus cold air through the, I guess I'd call it a snorkel that's pulling air from up above. Sometimes those need to be closed off so that it's just pulling warm air from the engine compartment. Because if you're pulling a lot of cold air that's got snow dust in it, that snow is going to get to the air filter and it's going to melt and it's going to turn to water. And then you're going to have water on your air filter. And then you're going to park the machine, or the machine's going to get cold. If it's 20 below, that air filter is going to ice up while you're running. Once that air filter ices up, you're not getting air into that engine. It's going to be starving for air. It's going to be low on power. It'll start using oil. We've even seen them pump oil out the dipstick, just trying to get air for the engine somehow. So keep an eye on those warning lights. Check things out, see what the cause is. Sometimes there's a lot of cattails or pine needles that are clogging up your radiator, causing things to overheat. And along with pine needles, a lot of these trails go through pine trees. Pine trees shed a lot of debris. They drop stuff by the muffler. The muffler gets hot. I've seen machines start small fires or sometimes major fires just from pine needles that get around the exhaust. It's good to look at that stuff and clean those machines out, every once in a while, a couple times a week if necessary. But definitely keep an eye on that stuff. More indicators just telling you what's going on. Doors open, cab or deck up. There's an explanation for some of the warnings on the machine. If it runs out of the diesel exhaust fluid, it'll go into a warning, and eventually it'll derate the engine, and you'll start losing power. So it'll go down to 75% power, and then 50% power. And if you keep running it and don't put DEF in it, eventually it's going to just stop the machine down to an idle. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you, but we've seen it more than once on these Tier 4 machines. Again, the Tier 4 diesel exhaust fluid kind of tells you how long you can run at those derate levels before it shuts you down. Something to keep in mind on that diesel exhaust fluid, it does freeze. I'm sure you've heard this from other manufacturers too, but that stuff will freeze if your machine's kept outside. We always recommend don't park it with the DEF tank full. If it's 20 below and the thing's going to sit for a few days, when you start it up again, it might be full of ice. So you can see if you're going to run for a couple hours and the thing's not going to use any DEF, it's going to derate you pretty quick. It doesn't need to use DEF within the first half hour or so of running, but once it tries to inject it, if there's nothing for it to put in, it's only going to run for so long before it shuts you down with an error. And I usually tell people park it low on DEF, half tank or less, and then top it off with warm stuff before you get in and run. This is back to the 400. Just kind of goes over what the warning lights mean. Like Jessica was saying, with the machines that can send your engine faults out to John Deere or whoever, ours, the operator can read right in the cab. Unfortunately, on the 400, it doesn't give you a whole lot of information unless you have a computer with you and you have or if you have the warning codes all printed out. But if you've got phone service, you can call us or call somebody that does have a computer. And with the Cummins engine, you can flash out the codes. There's a procedure here for flashing them out, and it'll tell you, 131 code is one flash, pause, and then 3 flashes, and then a pause, and then 1 flash. You can reference the service information. Will tell you what that is. And from there, you can decide, kind of make the decision, okay, that's a medium level fault or a low priority fault. You can decide if it's safe to run back to the shop or just continue your route, or if you need to stop it right now. They have a override button or switch for the diesel exhaust fluid system. You can override it one time and it'll give you 100% power for up to 30 minutes. I would avoid pressing that. I would, you don't want to, if you're not sure if you can make it back to your shop, I'd try to get somebody to come out and bring you some DEF. If it's a frozen DEF situation and you can make it back, then that's great. But just keep an eye on what these error codes mean and make sure you know what you're doing. More explanation on these switches and indicators. The PB400 will show these for exhaust system cleaning.
Doing surfing?
What's that?
So when you're surfing, available?
Sorry, Mike. Go ahead. Paul, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry. Another page for exhaust or engine warning symbols on the 400. Like I said, all in the manual, good stuff to know. Explains on the 400 what the D rate looks like if it runs out of diesel exhaust fluid. Shutting off the batteries on these newer machines with the Tier 4 engines. It seems like there's so much electronics on them that it's recommended if you're not going to run it for a day or more. They want you to shut the battery off, and that's, if you guys have the Tier 4 machines, it's the green button with the little light in it. You just press that button, and then the reason for that is every time you shut the engine off, it's going to send the diesel exhaust fluid back to the tank. It's going to clear all the lines so that it doesn't freeze up in the lines. So that timed battery shutdown just gives the machine time to send that exhaust fluid back to the tank. There is an emergency shut-off switch if there was a fire or some other situation where you had to shut it off right now. There's a red stop button. That's basically what I put together for presentation. If you get any questions, I'm happy to answer whatever I can.
Yeah, Mike from the Sault Ste. Marie Snowmobile Association.
Yep.
Is there in any of the new models a way to, fill the hydraulics in the engine without raising the deck or the cab?
On the engine, no, unless you've got a really long, skinny funnel, you probably could, but with the hydraulics, I've seen a lot of people put just buy a flap or either a flap or they make a hole cover. It's like a 6-inch round hole cover that you can cut a hole in the deck right over that fill, and you can put that in pretty easily. I think they sell them at Tractor Supply or Farm and Fleet type of place.
Sounds like a good idea. Thanks.
Yeah. You bet.
See, Paul, you did such a good job. Nobody's got any questions. You already answered them all already.
Right. Yeah, that's what I figured.
No questions from anyone?
If anybody wants any of that information, I'm happy to share it. You know, I can send it to you on a jump drive or email that file or. My
It
other
will be in the video as well, Paul.
Yep.
So the whole world's gonna see it when I get it up on our website.
Great.
Hopefully I can have that done by next week. Well, next up is our SAW committee and talking a little more about maintenance and the equipment committee. So I'd like to take about a 10-minute break and then we'll come back and we'll talk with them about some recommendations for maintenance. See you in 10. You guys are so quiet. It's just amazing to me.
Hey Karen, how do I get this share screen thing up?
Oh, I can let you do that. You got something to share?
Yeah, I got my PowerPoint thingy.
Okay. You can do that now. Hit the green button at the bottom, Scott, first.
Yeah.
And then once it should open up to your desktop. And then you can grab the
Entire
file.
screen application window. All right. Share.
You got it. It's working.
All right. How do I control that then? Where do I get to see it?
What?
Oh,
You
got
should
my.
see it on your own screen. And then probably your arrows, maybe your arrow keys.
Oh, okay. Oh, preview.
I see down
Oh.
at the bottom of your screen, there's arrows too, Scott. That they might work. There you go.
Oh, okay. I got it. It's moving now, eh?
Yep. You got a split screen. Somehow you got it on
All
split
right.
screen.
Oh, I gotta put it on from beginning. Doop. All right, I should be able to click on it now. Eh? Just have it come through.
Go ahead and try it. We got a couple minutes before we got to be back. Yeah, 3 minutes.
Is it
Yes,
changing?
nope. It's still on a split screen. We're only seeing half of it, Scott.
Oh, like that. Oh, I gotta have it like that then.
Yeah. Yep. That's how you want it. Yep.
All right, I get it now.
And I should just be able to
Cool.
go backwards. Just go backwards with your arrows. There you go.
Yeah, and I can put it on from beginning. Doop. There we go.
Yep. You should be good.
We'll try that.
Okay. We got just a couple minutes yet, and it'll
I
be
guess I'm
7:10.
next. I'm next, ain't I?
Yes, you're next. You're
Okay.
next. I think that then the equipment subcommittee and SAW members can join in with you to help answer questions that are.
Well, I figured I'd quickly get rid of this, and then we could all yak about it.
Yep. I think that's a perfect idea, Scott. Perfect idea.
Yeah. Like Carl beat me up.
Poor Carl.
got a
Your reputation precedes you, Carl.
I got a little bit on tracks after he gets done, so.
Awesome. You got a PowerPoint as well?
No,
Okay.
I'm way too dumb for that.
Okay.
You guys got everybody from the equipment subcommittee can like interject in this. I don't have to be all alone here.
Yep. Yep. That's kind of what I was hoping for as well. And we can probably, are you going to accept questions then as we're going, Scott, or would you rather they held them to the end, or?
Yeah, go. Yeah, questions as we go. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Well, it is 7:10, and I'm going to introduce Scott McComb. He is on the SAW committee, and he's put together a maintenance PowerPoint, and the rest of the evening will be all about maintenance and how important it is.
Okay, I'm Scott Lacombe, and I'm president of Hiawatha Trails Incorporated, a grant sponsor up in Marquette County, and we do our fair share of maintenance. And I kind of divide things up into my own mind as things I look at every day, things I look at weekly, and then things I look in the book that's behind the seat on most machines, which are the manufacturer's recommended maintenance intervals usually. And then, you know, if I do the first three things right, hopefully the fourth one, the emergency repair thing, doesn't happen very often. So, and I've minimized that over the years. When I first started grooming, there was probably a dozen times you'd have to go out in the middle of the night and fix something, and then you're kind of kicking yourself afterwards, because it's like, if I'd have looked at that today, I wouldn't have had to done this. And so over the years, I've got it down to, well, this year I'm going to knock on wood, but I've only gone out once. So, and that was a change from fuel filters. But anyhow. So we'll go on with our what I look at every day. And usually when I walk in my groomer barn, and I realize not everybody has a groomer barn, but a lot of these things should be looked at, is basically your oil levels. And you want to look at the oil level in the engine. And at the same time, if I got to lift the hood, I'm looking at for coolant leaks or belt problems or anything like that. And then I usually move on to the transmission. And, you know, not every transmission is the same. The, you know, dipsticks on the tuckers, and I'm not familiar with piston bullies so much as what their transmission, how you check that one. Well, I guess theirs is more hydraulic. They would be a hydrostatic type of thing. They probably don't have a transmission, that's right. But and then I move on to hydraulic oil. And in the ag tractors, that's the same thing you look at for your transmission level. And then, but like in a tucker, and what we just saw on the piston bully, your hydraulic is in a separate tank, and you have to check that level most every day, because that'll tell you if you have a blown hose on your drag somewhere, or you have a leak that, you know, finally showed up in the tank, and you got to go looking for one of those. And so then after I look at hydraulic and stuff like that, I move on to coolant, which means you got to pop the hood on a lot of things, and you look at your coolant levels and make sure you don't have leaks there. And then I'll move on to like the safety items, and which is operating lights, your rotator strobes, wiper blades, etc. The nice thing about nowadays is LED lights. You don't have to spend your time hardly looking at them anymore, because they don't burn out. And but I still have a couple rotators, and I know you guys do. You got to check the bulb in that when it's out and things like that. And then, of course, you know, the creature comforts for your drivers, like wiper blades, and make sure the heater motor's working and things like that. And after I'm done there, I usually just take a walk around the machine and look at the running gear. Like the guy from Piston Bully said, you want to look at your tracks and the track guides on those. I got Susi tracks, and I have Camoplast tracks on the tucker. So I actually look at the tucker tracks more than I look at the Susi tracks. But then there's guys, you know, there are other clubs have tires. You're going to want to check your tires for wear and cuts and things like that, and then your tire chains and, you know, etc. And that would be your running gear. And those are basically the things I look at every day, just in a quick type of thing to look at. So, and then we'll move on to what I would call weekly maintenance, which the first one I put up there is lubrication, and that's greasing your machine. And I am a real stickler about that. I don't let anybody but me grease my machines, because I am of the belief that if you give a man a box to check, your machine is not getting greased. So lubrication on the power unit, you can look in your operator's manual. It'll tell you where all the grease zerks are, grease fittings, and the ones on your drag are pretty evident. You can see those on the drag, but this should be done once a week and twice a week if it's a tucker. But then the twice a week ones on the ag tractors. A lot of the ag tractors now, they don't have drive line. You don't have to grease the drive line. I haven't found a fitting in about 2 years now, 2 or 3 years. Or I should say 2 machines I haven't found a fitting on them in the driveline, other than in your front suspension and where the axles rotate, and then the important ones on the back of the axles on the coming off the transmission that drive the tracks. There's 2 fittings, one top and bottom. They should be done once a week, and you don't give those a lot of grease, because they will actually, if you give them too much grease, they will wreak havoc. So, and then you have the other oil levels that you wouldn't check every day. Whoops, wrong one. There we go. Like in a Tucker, you have rear ends. I check those once a week. The other piston boys and stuff have planetaries. Your 4-wheel drive ag tractors have planetaries in the front. Those should be checked, rolled around. And then you have rollers on the what I call rollers or bogey wheels on your track vehicles. They have to be checked once a week, which is nice on the Susie tracks. Now, I wasn't fortunate enough to get a set of Susie tracks with windows in them, so I have to roll mine all over the place and crawl on the floor and look in them. But the ones with the windows are nice. That started out with the Zuderberg tracks, and now I see Susie's doing it. So, and I'm not too familiar with the I know the Bombardier, the BR8 180s. We used to grease the wheels on those. I don't know that they have a liquid, like a gear lube type of thing on a piston bully or not. But those should be checked weekly. And then you got your hour meter. Weekly, you should look at your hour meter and see where your manufacturer intervals are. And most of your manufacturer intervals will be found in the book behind the seat, and those are usually your oil changes, transmission oil changes, and things like that. And air filter, how often you have to look at that. I don't think grooming equipment has a whole heck of a lot of problems with air filters, other than snow dust, like the piston goalie guy says. I've had that happen before. And then once a week, you want to look at your drag. You want to look at your cutting edges. You want to look at the cutting edges on your foot blade on your machine. I always lift my drags up and I run my hand underneath the side rails and the back just to see what's going on. I've learned to put a glove on because I've been cut a few times, but those are things you want to do weekly. And then there's the manufacturer recommended service, which I touched on here a little bit ago. Like I said, it's normally found in the operating manual. There will be service intervals for each items in the back there that you might not have been aware of. But a lot of these things, I know in the newer ag tractors and I think even in my Tucker, but you can put the service intervals in a computer and it can send up a code or a warning, which my drivers have called me at 1 o'clock in the morning to tell me that we need an oil change, which sometimes that doesn't work too well. And usually oil and filter changes to include engine transmission differentials and planetaries is what you will find in there for the service intervals in the book, which are very important and should be followed. And if you're really working your machine hard, some of these things should be done probably at a little shorter interval. And then I'll come to the emergency repair type of situation. Catastrophic failures happen to the best maintenance programs. I think there should be like a responsible person in each club, which I'm the responsible person in my club, but I'm the one that gets the phone calls in the middle of the night when things broke down. I'm the one that has to assess whether the damage is able to be fixed out on the trail or we got to figure out how we're going to get the machine off the trail or out of the trail and moved without doing further damage. And Carl interjected into this too in an email. And, you know, that same person should probably be the one that calls the DNR to make sure that, you know, you're going to get an amendment to fix it right away so you can get back on the trail and things like that. But I don't, I personally, I do not let my operators touch the machines for a lot of liability issues, and I don't want any finger pointing for when the thing breaks down and he did it, he should have done it. I take the responsibility for my machine. And it's a, you know, 6-7 day a week job. So a lot of times it isn't a lot of hours per day. Oops. And then my final slide is everybody always takes every groomer operator in the world that posts to Facebook and everything always shows that really smooth trail. I show the front. I took a picture of the front of the machine the other night, and that's what I had faced. Some of Don Reed's moguls, and they were horrible. So, but I preach the grease thing. If you grease your machine, while you're greasing it, you're looking at other things. You're down there a couple times a week. The machine needs the lubrication. It can do nothing but good, and it'll save you from being out on the trail in the middle of the night trying to rescue the machine a lot of times. So without further ado, the rest of the equipment subcommittee can chime in, and that's pretty much my presentation.
Very nice, Scott. Great presentation. Did a nice job.
All right, thank you.
Just to interject a little bit, in my background in equipment, I started out when I was like 12 years old, and my dad always used to tell me if it moves, there's got to be a point on there to grease it or oil it, one or the other. If there's a pivot point, there's got to be a place to grease it or oil it. Just my little tidbit.
Did you have something to talk about for tracks?
I do if there's no questions for Scott.
God, I hope not.
Grease is cheap, right, Scott?
Yeah, grease is your cheapest maintenance right there. And it gets you down underneath the machine so you can see everything else that's going wrong with it. So it has saved me countless times that I found a shackle bolt broke, or I found a U-joint that was loose, or I found a seal leaking on a transfer case. You know, it's just, if you keep your eyes open while you're greasing, you'll find other things.
Absolutely.
Everybody must be doing all good maintenance.
But it's like I said, I'll reiterate it. You give a man a box to check, and your machine is not going to be greased 9 times out of 10. So.
You don't want to get their hands dirty.
I can't believe Carl doesn't have anything to say.
Keep going, Don. Maybe you'll invoke some questions and they'll do some thinking on. Scott covered everything and the daily maintenance and weekly maintenance pretty well. So what other tidbits do you have?
Well, I'll work on track systems a little bit here if you want. Number one thing on tracks is speed. Recommended speed for Susie tracks, if you're going to road that machine to the trail or whatever, not to exceed 14 miles an hour. Working speed, maximum 6.5 to 7 miles an hour. The reason for that is if you're traveling on a road to get to the trail and it takes you more than an hour, should stop and let the tracks cool down, even at 14 miles an hour. It's speed, the heat in the tracks is what kills the tracks. So there's Susie has all kinds of charts on loads for high speed, what you can, what speed you can run without a load on the tractor and what speeds with the tractor. But I can answer questions on that if somebody has any questions, but I'll move into a little bit more on greasing. Susie system seals are installed in a reverse position to prevent or reject contamination and moisture in the axle housing. So you grease all the grease fittings on the track system until you see grease coming out. The reason for that is it pushes moisture out of those areas where you're running in the snow, and it keeps the moisture out of those bearings. Also on Susie tracks, have a maintenance schedule is recommended to grease and wheel bearings and axles at every 25 hours of use. Or if you get into heavy moisture or muddy situations, you should grease them every 10 hours. And that I definitely recommend. When you have your first year with Susie tracks, you should change the oil in all your rollers after the first season, because it's called what they call break-in oil, and they want to get the oil changed on that at least after the first season. Also, storing tracks in the off season, you should relax the tensioners on the tracks. Make sure that the track system is stored inside if possible, where you have the temperatures of low of 40 degrees and a high of 75 degrees. Never leave your tracks outside for UV rays, and if you do leave it outside, make sure you cover the tracks. And like I said, avoid temperatures beyond 95 degrees if you store it outside by covering them or whatever you can do to keep them cool. Do not store the tractors inside where you have electronic devices or generators. It causes what they call ozone, such as motors or other petrochemical vapors. For some reason, that's not good for tracks either. On the inspection of the rollers, check for cracks or mud or debris jammed in the rollers. Check for uneven wear, and check for rubber, what they call band damage, which is be a line around the roller where rocks have been rolling around or stuck in the track and causing what they call rubber band damage. There's also a system that Susie does for repairing cracks in tracks. It's a repair kit called a Permabond 268 adhesive. If you're going to do that, you have to make sure that the cuts are clean and dry. And you should when you use that, you should try to keep the machine from moving for at least 24 hours. Let that adhesive get a chance to harden up in there. I'm not really big on the track damage because I don't know a whole lot about it, but evidently if you talk to Susie, they have a system that you can use to repair minor cracks and tracks. Make sure when you do that, if it's on the outside of the track, turn the crack up to the sprocket so it's opened up as much as it's going to be, and then clean it, dry it, and use that adhesive. Also on Zuderberg tracks, when you get done with the season, they want you to clean the tracks thoroughly with a pressure washer and make sure you grease everything thoroughly after you wash it to make sure you push all the moisture out of the bearings and seals. And also release the tension on the tracks also. Tucker does tell you to do that also. Keeps you get the track so it goes back to its original unstretched form. It's very important to release the tension on the tracks. Any questions on some of that stuff? I don't have that big scientific or that display that a lot of you guys with your programs have. I'm not a computer person, so that's beyond me. Somebody must have questions out there.
Yeah, I guess I got a question about Tucker tracks. I know you're not supposed to run in low snow because it builds up heat, but if you get in a position where are low snow or it's frozen really hard, what is a safe speed to travel at?
I would never go beyond 14 miles an hour if you're on a road getting to the trail, and 7 to 8 miles an hour on when you're actually grooming.
Thank you.
The reason for the lower speed when you're grooming is it just does a better job. Your machine. Years ago, the Tuckers had what they call an overdrive, and it would actually, the machine could actually go capable of going 25 miles an hour. So they've in the newer models now, they've taken that overdrive out. So I think top speed is like 16 miles an hour. But I wouldn't recommend anything over 14. Actually, if Paul Scanlon's still on, if he's got any idea on grooming speed and road speed, is he still up there?
Yep, he's here.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I agree with you on grooming speed at typically 6 to 8 miles an hour. Some people, if they're doing a railroad grade that's already a smooth trail, you can get away with 9 or maybe 10, but it's going to be better for the machine if you're going a little bit slower. You're pulling a heavy drag, you're doing a lot of work with the machine. It's moving a lot of small bearings at high speed. So yeah, the wheel bearings aren't going that fast, but your final drives are going pretty quick there at that point. Roads, going down a road for half a mile or a quarter mile from trail to trail, the machines will go 14, 15 miles an hour. And yeah, that's fine for a short distance, like you said, but you don't want to go that fast for an extended period of time, for sure. It's going to heat up the final drives, and then when you slow down, it's going to start cooling, and then it's going to bring in moisture. That's one way you're getting moisture into your planetaries, just from condensation and melt off.
Somebody else must have some questions. Lots of maintenance, lots of issues with maintenance. I look at the list for the Richard paid out maintenance issues, and I'm not blaming anybody, but there's got to be questions on maintenance.
You scared him, Don.
Must have.
Or they're just tired of sitting here for 4 nights.
Well, that could be. Maybe we ought to put the maintenance on the first night.
Well, we shake it up. It
Yeah.
just depends. I know Don Reed mentioned the other night in his technique class that he has every one of his sponsor his groomers sign a safety form every single year
Probably a
that
good idea.
that they are going to abide by the rules of the club. And I'm sure most of you here know why Don has that pretty near and dear to his heart. I don't think they had it going on then, but it's definitely something they're doing now. And he said that every club should have that. I'm gonna ask Don for his form that he uses. If he'll send me a copy, and then I'll get it out to all the sponsors so that you guys can use it. It's a good protection. No one wants to think about someone being hurt on the equipment, working on it, on the trailer, anything else, but we all know what happens. So I don't know how many are any of you guys doing that? Do any of you guys have a safety form for you guys to fill out?
I think we started one probably about 10 years, 12 years
Dave's
ago.
got one.
We got a lot of complaints about it, so we just kind of discontinued it, but it's probably a real good idea.
Yeah, just a protection for yourself and for the club. You know, no one wants to think about it, but it certainly does happen.
It does happen.
Karen, this was something, I must have missed that the other night. This is something you can forward to us, or like
Yep.
a template of it or something?
Yep, I'm gonna ask Don to send it to me. Don was on Tuesday. My life's been a little crazy this week, Scott, but I do have it in my notes to request it from Don, the blank form. And because I didn't screenshot what, his idea and write down all the ideas that he had. So I wanted to, ask him for the one that they're using. I may have to go to Randy and get it from Sini. I'm not sure, but I know with what happened in Sini, it's been a really tough road for Don. With that going on, so nobody wants to think about it. Nobody wants to worry about it, but we all know that when you're working around equipment, people can get hurt. So go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I discussed some of this with our groomer operator today, and the best thing is that whether you're brushing, signing, grooming, what have you, just working in the shop doing maintenance, if you have something that you let the operators and the people and your volunteers be aware of the hazards and dangers that they're may be exposed to by doing this type of work, and they agree to do that and sign off, being, showing that they were informed of the hazards involved, that keeps, everybody covered. And it's a great thing. I was glad that Don mentioned that. And it's just something that our club had never thought about before, but we'd like to implement that too. And if we can get something like a copy of what Don has and the information he goes through with his people, because obviously the type of work we do is dangerous. Whether, like I said, whether you're just brushing, you're out there on the trail, cutting down a tree by yourself. I mean, any kind of anything can happen. So that's a really great idea. I was glad to hear that.
Yep, I was too. I didn't realize that he did that, and obviously he's wishing now that they would have been doing it all along. Because I think it's been a real ugly road for Don. I don't know that it's
I
done
can't
yet.
imagine. I couldn't imagine.
Right.
I didn't quite catch what Jessica had on the screen there a little bit ago.
She says that she's thinking that maybe the template could be, for a safety agreement, could be in the appendix of the handbook.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yep. And being that Jessica and I are on the handbook committee,
Yeah,
we might be able to make that happen, huh, Jess?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't, that just really has stuck in my mind since he brought that up on Tuesday. So, um, I think it's real important. Something for all the clubs to think about. That's all I got, Don. Sorry.
No problem.
Come on, Carl. You got to have something to say. Where's the rest of the equipment subcommittee? Carl's quiet.
One more little tidbit, I guess, on track maintenance. Probably a good idea to at least once a month in the summertime to move the track around a little bit. Move the machine forward, backward. Because rubber, just like anything else, if it sets in one position for a long period of time, will actually make flat spots in the rubber, whatever you want to call it. But it's a good idea to move the machine at least once a month during the summer months.
Now that you mentioned that, Don, we'd had issues in the past with our Tucker where the bogey wheel seals every fall. It's just all kinds of leaking fluid and all that stuff. And our Tucker was sent in for a cab down refurb before last year. And one of the things we learned from Tucker was that exactly what you said was to move the thing every now and then throughout the summer to keep oil on the seals. What was happening is the seals were drying out, and next thing you know, our oil's passing through them. So since we've done that, we have not had that issue. Once a month or maybe once every 6 weeks, we go out and just drive it around the yard, kind of let the battery charge a little bit and park it, and we have not had an issue.
Yeah, it's I noticed that too. And when you leave, especially Tucker, when you leave them set for a long period of time, you'll see oil on the tracks, on the inside of the tracks. And that's what it's doing. There's oil going beyond the seals because they're drying out. Another little thing on Tucker, especially, we used to take old pallets, wooden boards, planks, whatever we could find, and put between the tracks and the concrete floor or dirt floor. Because the moisture in the concrete floor and the dirt also raises havoc with the tracks. So.
Wicks. No questions?
Sounds like either that or everybody's tired.
I think so.
Hey, Don, don't technically like Tucker and I think Piston Bully too, because when we went to the class 4 or 5 years ago, they actually recommend to take the tracks completely off the machine and roll them up, put them in the corner of the garage until fall and then put them back on. Is that still the case or we don't know?
Well, you can still do that. Just remember when you do the tracks that way, don't lay them down with the track side down. Lay them on the
Correct.
edge.
Yeah,
Put 'em on
correct.
the edge of the tracks. Not.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can recommend to do. It's a good idea to take the tracks off because that totally relaxes that track. And then, like I said, turn them on their edge. So.
Yeah, for piston bully, in a perfect situation, you'd take the tracks off in the summer and store them in the shade or inside somewhere, like Don said, up on the edge, roll them up and put them on edge. And then put the machine up on blocks, so you've got the suspension relaxed. And then just go out and run it, once a month, get the oil moving around in the planetaries and everything, so your seals are lubricated and everything. That's the ideal way to store them.
Yeah, whatever you do, just don't let Mother Nature get into them, that's all. Heat, rain, whatever, so.
Yeah. What if they don't have a barn, Don? What do you do if you don't have a barn? Do you cover them?
Cover them with something that'll reflect the heat, so it won't absorb the heat. Make sure it's a good heavy canvas or something like that that will actually reflect the heat, so it doesn't get into them.
But not every grant sponsor has a barn, of course.
Right.
So we know some of them are sitting outside.
Yeah, a lot of them don't even relax the tracks, and it's kind of, you see that and you wish you'd just stop and tell the guy at least relax the tracks anyway. So they don't
Maybe the
rubber a chance to relax. It does a lot good for them.
It's amazing, back in the old days, it didn't bother quite so bad, but the sun and, you know, just like you see campers and everything put the covers on the wheels, you know, the rubber years ago wasn't like it is today. I mean, it's amazing within a year or two how bad the tires and rubber just weather checks to beat hell.
And you create a lot of cracks, and that's what deteriorates the tracks.
Yep.
Somebody's got something going on there. It's not a question.
I think it was Barry. I think Barry's got the TV on, or maybe Linda's kicking him out of the living room so she can watch TV. Not sure. Anyone else? Any DNR individuals wanna throw their hat in the ring, and or Mike Williams? Do you got any tidbits, pointers? Mike's here with Piston Bully as well. Words of wisdom for these guys, something that they may not think about on an everyday basis. Mr. Mike Sabo, are you grooming? He looks like he's in a groomer. He is. You are dedicated. You
He's
are
been grooming all
dedicated.
night. It's been fun watching him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been intrigued completely. Nice job, Mike. Thanks for sharing.
He's been amazingly safe.
Yeah.
That's dedicated.
Yes.
Anyone else?
I'd rather be doing that, honestly.
Yeah, but you haven't had much snow, have you, Scott?
No, heck, we've went out maybe once or twice a month. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. It has been.
But our trails are good right now. I just talked to my guys a little while ago. I'm riding this weekend right from the cabin there in St. Helens, so probably be it, but is what it is.
Right.
We're
Other
supposed to get,
questions?
we're supposed to get rain Saturday, so that might slow things down a little bit up here. So
It's supposed to be warm down here this weekend.
yeah.
Real warm. I know John Newman's got a ride scheduled, an MSA board member ride, or whoever wants to go in St. Ignace, and I hope it doesn't get warm and wreck it up there for next weekend.
There should be enough snow cover. It's supposed to get freezing every night, so it shouldn't be too bad. Hopefully it won't turn to ice on everything.
Yeah. No other questions, comments, concerns? Look at you, Mr. Veltman, with that groomer workshop shirt. We need to get some new ones of them next year. It's been 2 years.
Hey, I'll throw something out, Karen.
Go ahead.
I am going to be, I'm going to be let out of my cage, and I'm heading up to Traverse City for the M Parks conference. MParks is just what the name says. It's an organization for Michigan Parks and Recreation administrators and volunteers and that kind of thing. And I am going to be talking to them about the importance of motorized recreation inside and outside of our park boundaries, and give them a little insight on, the connections that we've made with places like our scramble areas and the new Holly Oaks and our state parks that allow motorized recreation, for ingress and egress directly to our trails, that kind of thing, which is, I think, a message that needs to get out to these planners and participants in parks planning for the future. So here's what I'm gonna throw out, and you don't have to answer now, but if you think of something, email me. If you were gonna talk to these planners and people that are discussing parks and recreation issues, people that don't often think about motorized recreation and its importance, if you had something to say to them, what would you say? And I will be happy to carry those messages and be your voice as I share information about our entire grant sponsor system for both ORV and snowmobile. I'd love to carry some quotes or questions or comments directly from you guys if you have anything to share. So just wanted to let you know that I'm happy to carry your voices into these kind of things. That's all.
Okay, I think we're not gonna have any more questions here, Don. For as much as we're willing it to happen, ain't gonna happen. I think we can call it a night. It's been a great week, you guys. I appreciate all you've done. I appreciate the support from DNR. They've been in a lot of these meetings. They have, done great presentations. They've been here to answer questions. They've been informative. They've been our partners, and that's what we need. You guys are definitely the backbone, and we know that. Without you guys, we wouldn't have a program. You're pretty damn important, and you're the heroes in my book. And I will praise you every chance I get, because I'll tell you what you guys do and what you go through is absolutely amazing to me. You're absolutely amazing. Be proud of yourselves. You're awesome. And thank you so much for coming. Chris, do you have something to say? I know there's some people on here that haven't been introduced to you yet, Mrs. Bennett. She dove off.
And unmute.
Oh, there you are. I thought
Yep.
you left.
No, and whatever is going on with my video right now is making me look like I'm bright red, but I'm not. So I'm not drinking. Just want to introduce myself. I am Chris Bennett. I am the acting state trails coordinator. I have worked for the department for about 25 years. And then took over this position when Paul Yauk retired last April. I am coming up on my year, so they are in the process of filling this position, and that should be filled hopefully by April at the latest. I don't know how long the process is going to take, but a year is as long as I'm allowed to be in this position in an acting capacity. So just wanted to, thank all of you for doing the work you do. We cannot run our motorized program without the grant sponsors and the groomers who do this. And the team I work with works very hard to try to simplify your lives for you. We understand that you are volunteers and you work very, very hard to make this recreation great. So we just wanted to make sure that you guys are recognized and that, we do what we can to try to make your lives easier to help us build this great trail state.
Awesome.
Well, I hope we see you after April.
Yeah, is there anything we can do to help? Can we just call and send
No.
emails?
No, you just gotta let the process be the process.
We could go lobby. We could go lobby on the door stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure what my bosses would think if the legislature starts coming in their door saying, hey. I would probably get in trouble somehow that way.
Can we just lobby Ron Olson?
You can do what you do.
Okay.
Again,
Well,
thank you all for coming. I appreciate your time. Everyone's time is very precious, and you've given me 4 nights. A lot of you have given me 4 nights. That's amazing. Hopefully next year we're back together in person, and Mr. Paul Scanlon can buy everybody a beer.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Thank you.
There's an invite.
There you go.
Yep.
All right. Thank you all, and have a great night.
Thank you much.
Stay safe out there, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye, Chris.
Have a good night.